Okay, serious part now. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wahdahu wa salatu wa salam ala man la nabi ba'dahu. Nabiyuna Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa anna ma'ahum ila yawmiddin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallahu wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh wa ba'd. We start by praising Allah, we glorify Him. We seek God's help and guidance in all our affairs. We ask Allah Almighty to be kind towards us, to help us in our lives, to overcome all obstacles and challenges that we meet in life with grace and magnanimity. We ask Allah, the Lord Almighty, that He opens our hearts and minds to the truth, that He gives us a truthful living, that we are always displaying good character, that we are benevolent, we are kind, that we are always taking care of one another, so that He is pleased, and by His pleasure He graces us with His mercy, and it is only His mercy on account of our good actions through which He gives us eternal happiness. So we seek eternal happiness, not just protection, happiness, blessings in this life, but also in the hereafter. I testify that there is none worthy of worship except the one true deity, God Almighty, Allah, who has no partners, and I also testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that he is God's final messenger to all of humanity till the end of time. Welcome to our class this morning. Alhamdulillah, it's a little bit slow to start with, some people are coming in, but we should ideally start at 10 o'clock, and 10:15 was kind of a late start. 10:10 is acceptable, I think, at a stretch. So it is a late start, so I've chosen too small. I think it might happen because summer holidays, nice days, and today is a particularly glorious day, alhamdulillah, very nice, beautiful. A little bit spoiled for those who are making long journeys and staying up since 5 o'clock in the morning or something. So we're going to read one verse from 2 chapters to reflect, and we're going to follow the same format as always. Fahad and Sophia are new, but the rest of those who are here knows the format. We read a section or a passage or two from the Noble Quran. We try and relax, we try to concentrate. It's almost like a meditation session with me droning on in the back, so I keep on talking. But we ask you to relax, feel at ease, try not to be distracted or disturbed. We have issues and many concerns, but we try to leave them outside the door. And we try to just think on or feel, more importantly, what we are hearing. And what we are hearing is in my own sort of unique, monotonous voice, something from the Noble Quran, which we revere as God's revealed words, but the translation in English. And then we open up and we ask each other, what did you feel? On the strength of that feeling, you give us your ready response. It's not a deep, it's not something which we think a lot about, but spontaneous, we come up with our responses. And then after that, inshallah, we usually end up talking a lot myself, but we try and gain some reminders. Because in the end, we are all adults, and we all understand that the human heart is endowed with the power to connect with virtue and beauty. And that's because we are part of this creation, and creation is complete. Creation reflects order, it reflects justice, it reflects strength in a way, power, wisdom, and behind all that, we as Muslims believe there is God. So we as Muslims who are created, or people created by God, can connect with the truth and beauty and virtue and all that of nature. And that's what we try to do. We can be a natural person, just be a human being, but with God in the picture, so to speak. And there are certain directives to follow. So I'm going to read the translation, listen, and then we're going to see who comes up with what ideas. Almost like a Quaker meeting, but not quite. Okay. In the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. Don't you see that God merges night into day, and He merges day into night? That He has subjected the sun and the moon, each running its course for a term appointed, and that Allah, God, is well acquainted with all that you do? Behold, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, in the alternation of the night and the day, in the sailing ships through the ocean for the profit of mankind, in the rain which Allah sends down from the skies, and the life which He gives therewith to an earth that is dead, in the beasts of all kinds that He scatters through the earth, in the change of the winds and the clouds which they trail like their slaves between the sky and the earth. Here indeed are signs for a people that are wise. That's it. 2 sentences, that's all. Rather long, the second sentence, that's it. I would be very happy if you can now volunteer 3 points from the audience. The usual story is that we walk out of this class now, and God forbid the fire alarm goes off and we're out in the streets or something, and people ask, and they ask, where are you coming from, what happened? And you say, well, some bloke with a long beard was talking about Quran or something. And then the discussion starts. What was it saying? What was the Quran saying then? You Muslims believe that's not what God has revealed. So what do you think God has told us? We don't have to necessarily be a Muslim or accept that this is God, these are God's words. But in terms of just literature. Anybody wants to volunteer?
It says all the creations in the space everywhere, it doesn't come out just by accident, something like that. There is a purpose behind it, and there's every single thing that Allah created is a wisdom.
Is that what you felt by listening to what I just read today? That there is a purpose behind? Okay. Because I think little bit because you are a Muslim and you thought a little bit more about these verses and you have a background kind of understanding, you kind of honed in on the purpose bit. But the purpose is understood from having heard or been pointed out some things, isn't it? Where does the purpose feeling come from? Because there is purpose, because we just heard. That's the right answer. That is the right answer.
I mean,
but you kind of jumped ahead. It's like,
get out from the 2 verses you read. There's so many things.
Yeah.
You can say one of them is the purpose that, and is I don't know if I say it.
No, it's fine. Just say whatever comes to your mind.
And everything, it has time and.
Okay, yeah. So you want to say there's a time. There is. I was going to say order. Okay. There things seems to be happening, and they seems to be happening in a miraculous way, but they are not. If you look at science, technology, and so forth. Yeah,
it's not accident. It's all controlled. Every single one. Everything.
Basically, everything's pointed to nothing being not accidental. Okay, that's a good point. But go back to the verses and see what it says. It says, don't you see that God merges the night and the day? So we can look at the stars, we can look at the moon, we can study on the basis of astronomy and mathematics, and we can see how time the sensation of time is produced and so forth. That He has subjected the sun and the moon to His law. So something about things are under law, or according to the laws of nature, you might say, that there is discipline in creation, there is order, as we mentioned. So this is just for those who don't understand the basis of and how things are working, the workings of. Then it says, each running a course for a term appointed. And calculations do show that whether it's a very long time, which is beyond our perception or not, over a length of time, very long time later, things are going to go into a halt. Whether the Earth stops spinning, or the orbits kind of come to an end, or the sun burns out. So it's for a term appointed, a very long term perhaps. And indeed in the creation of heavens and the earth, so that's again study of everything in the alternation night and day, but then it talks about ships sailing on the sea. Something about surface tension, water, properties of how things are. Things are properties, things are endowed with properties, and they interact and they allow us then to function. Then he talks about how Allah sends down rain from the sky. Those of us who are able to understand will then go through the weather cycle and understand how these things happen. But yeah,
And another point, if even if you are not Muslim, we don't know Allah or anything, but still we can't see. There's all in the space everywhere. All creatures, wherever you look, is a sign that there's someone creating. It's not just.
so there's intelligence behind it. There is management going on. There is a kind of power. There's authority. There is intelligence.
There's safety.
There is safety as well. There's protection. Things are being managed in such a way it doesn't all reduce to chaos and utter kind of disarray. He gives life to an earth that is dead. So there is revival going on in the plant kingdom, animal kingdom, even how the nature performs, and the cults that grew up or the religions that grew up in the past, looking at seasons, the Nile River or something like that. So something is very barren and dry, then becomes green and lush because the floods happens in certain times of the year. And look at the clouds and the winds, the change and the weather patterns and all of those things. And I feel nowadays they can actually observe from, of course they have done this on YouTube actually, you can actually see the ocean currents of the entire globe fast, in rapid motion. So it's a speeded up kind of camera technique. And you can see how they're all operating, and the winds as well. So everything is as a systematic, has a purpose, has order, has intelligence. So all of that can't be without a purpose. So you did say the right answer is derived from observation. And that's the only thing I was actually really looking for. That Allah, God, if we believe in God, but we as Muslims we do, has given us certain faculties, powers to reason on the basis of our faculties of hearing, sight, taste, smell, and so forth. Yeah, what are the five? Hear, see, touch, smell, and taste. Yeah, and then you can have the ESP after that if you want, the extrasensory perception. So that's the first thing. So I want the next point now, inshallah. If somebody can give me the second point. Any more points on that? What else can you remember? Do you want to say something?
It sounded as if it's an answer to a question or a concern. If someone says, show me evidence of the involvement of God in creation,
Okay.
and it seems as if it's answering that question of, use, like Sheikh said, your senses, and it gives you things in a tangible sense. It gives you a list of things you can look for within creation rather than trying to find things outside of it.
There is no way to convince ourselves about God except by or through the material existence. There are two ways. The one is disputed very much. Both are disputed or contested. But one is a direct so-called evidence, which is I have the ability to look and see. And that's the whole basis of knowledge. Basis of knowledge in the modern world, in the post-enlightenment kind of scientific world. That everything has to be proven. The knowledge is based on what is confirmed by through verification, by observation and evidence. Okay. Religion goes beyond that and talks about feelings and hearts and metaphysical things and so forth. So it is, as you're saying, so there is a reminder. There is no way we can remind ourselves of the presence of, or the existence of, or the characteristics of this entity whom we call God, except through observation and reflection. Okay, we can't. So what I wanted to say was sometimes we need certain qualities to exist in life, to make it through life. We need, for example, courage. Courage fails, isn't it? We need to be brave sometimes. We might not think in terms of bravery, but to make a decision sometimes which is against certain odds or carry certain risks, we need to be brave enough to say, well, I'll take the risk and I'll kind of not ignore the odds against me, but I trust in something else, as it were. So there's courage that's needed. Courage in leadership, management, president, foreign policy, whatever it may be. Courage. And there's hope. These two things are needed. Okay? That will lead to something there. Courage and hope are essential for life to continue for human beings. That tomorrow the sun will shine, well, it must do. How can the sun not shine tomorrow? It does every day. What will happen to it? So there's almost like a foolish kind of way of looking at hope, but we do. We hope the sun will shine tomorrow. It may not. Or I'll be alive tomorrow, to make it more morbid level. Tomorrow I'll be alive. I may die today, but everything else like that. The food will be cooked, it won't get burned. And sometimes I don't think about these things because naturally, normally, every time I think about burning the food I'm cooking, that's like being paranoid, it's unbalanced. So courage and hope, but they fail. And what our scholars teach us is that these are human qualities. Now, a plant will always grow automatically, like I can't draw plants or stuff, but a plant will automatically grow towards the sun, isn't it? And the shoot comes up and then comes as a sapling and goes towards the sun. You can say light, you can say warmth. And this will get a little bit philosophical, but because it's a religious class, I have to explain. Light and warmth, and that's your sun, and that's your plant going towards it. Courage and hope are like rocks or two stones, yeah? And there's your plant there. Who can draw flowers and things? There you go, there's your flower. So the point is, they can fail, but when the sun is there, the plant will still grow. This is like a protection. These two qualities protect us in life, whether we believe in God or not. But we are not plants, we're intelligent people. Plants are endowed with the intrinsic quality, we say natural law, to go towards the sun. The sun gives warmth, energy. For faith to grow, we need to go towards Allah. And that is, the plant will never become as high as the sun or even reach up to the sky. But it will grow upwards, towards the sun. Faith also grows, it has to go towards God. So just like plants, we are also endowed with intrinsic, innate nature to be able to discover and connect with Allah. As long as the heart is kept in a natural state, God, natural state. Naturally, I can connect with beauty, virtue, as I mentioned before. I always utilize these two qualities, sometimes without much thought, but they're very much needed when I start thinking about it. Can't do without them. They are like the rocks which protect me, but I'm supposed to grow into something. I can't forever remain in a diminutive, stunted, undeveloped state. For the human being to fully grow, this is the religious view, the human heart has to yearn for, seek God. If I don't do that, the guidance will not come. God may still guide me, even though I'm not the least bit interested in God, but one has naturally, normally, I have to show some interest. So unlike plants, I'm endowed with the quality, but I have to. That's the point. So the fragile root grows, but the warmth of this sun is needed. Faith grows, but something called warmth is needed. And the warmth are these qualities. This is the point about religion. And what we must understand is in religion, nothing should be unnatural, let alone superstitious. There are things which we can't understand, but nothing should be superstitious, based on magic, as it were, inexplicable, we can't explain. So the warmth are in four qualities, and tell me if you agree with them or not. Gentleness. And I'm saying this because I'm prejudiced in favor of Islam. Because I know Islam encourages these four qualities. They are enshrined within the teachings and practices of Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him. Okay? The Sunnah consists of that. Human behavior is always accepting and admiring of these qualities. And there's nothing unnatural or surprising. Islam supports, encourages the growth of these four qualities. Gentleness, kindness. Okay, then we have benevolence or being charitable. Benevolence. And forbearance. You can say tolerance, but it's a bit more than that. And hilm. Whether a person believes in God or not, a human being, if he has or she has these four qualities, you'll find that person easier to get on with, more relaxed in that person's company, more supportive. And you would expect, if Islam is a true religion, or any other religion to be true, that that religion would support these four qualities. Do you want to dispute any of them? You can. you can say, no, you're wrong. I think it shouldn't be, kindness shouldn't be there.
What does benevolence mean again, sir?
Charity, to be support, to be gracious, to do more sometimes, looking after your neighbour's needs, sharing. It's not just a question of feeling sympathy or empathy, it's actually going and doing something as well. You're benevolent, so you are helping. Share my meal with me and things like that.
Generous type.
Generosity, yes. All of that is within that. Each of them must express through practice, not sitting and saying, oh, it's nice and beautiful and we feel warm and cozy about it. Gentleness. So it must express in life through our treatment of one another. Or we should try and seek to perfect or make it stronger or more intense. All I'm saying, I'm stating it, but we need to think and explore and contest if you want. Allah's given us independent minds. I am saying, from my knowledge of Islam, my knowledge of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, that Islam supports these 4 qualities. Wholeheartedly, comprehensively, in depth, and pushes us towards realizing them so they override everything else. Within them are many other subdivisions, like benevolence has charity, generosity and so on, but they encapsulate all. That's what Islam is. Okay? So the warmth, like the plant needs the sun, for the faith to grow, needs these 4 qualities. So God could have sent the whole book down at one go. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have sent the Quran at one go. But He developed the faith in the hearts of the disciples through the treatment and practices of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him. And throughout his life, he consistently and rigorously applied these 4 principles. And I don't know of any much dispute about this, but you might know from a philosophical point of view or from an atheistic point of view or whatever, academic point of view. Then let's have a short discussion. If not, let's move on. Okay? I did give you a chance. It's like bargain hunt, isn't it? Lots going, gone. So courage sometimes fails, hope fails, and all of that. But for a Muslim, we need something much stronger which pulls us upwards all the time. We won't become part of God. God won't be within us and so on. But we will climb the heights of nobility or become close to God kind of thing. We need warmth. We need the warmth of human character. When religion comes into play and God comes into the picture in our lives, they become sharpened and refined or purified. That's all. Okay? So plants don't have intelligence, but they are automatically made to be like that. We are given choice and intelligence. So we can decide either to ignore something natural within us which pulls us towards God or makes us automatically understand about God or accept God, or we can choose to ignore. If we choose the latter path and say, well, I don't need God, and who is God, it's just a fictitious thing, and so forth, I'm actually running the risk, that's a religious point of view, of not being sufficiently pulled upwards. So I can still have these qualities, but then something will go amiss if I reject the one who actually originated, created, sustains, and so forth. All of creation, the verses we read, makes all those things to happen and sustains and manages. What will I gain when my life ends? I mean, is that it? There is purpose behind things. Clearly there's intelligence and order shows that there is a purpose. What's the purpose of life? Why am I endowed with this altruistic type of qualities? When, if it's survival of the fittest, of course, in the most brutal sense, I should be going on not being gentle. I should just fight and smash and destroy and survive by myself. Be very selfish. And only let those people survive who are good for my survival. So I won't kill them all. I'll kill some of them, but only those they remain who allows me to selfishly exploit and enjoy this world. So what we are saying is when we turn towards Allah, when we as Muslims turn towards Allah, seeking these qualities from Him, that's when we are actually worshipping Allah properly. So if you find Muslims harsh or cruel or uncharitable and selfish or intolerant and disputing or too argumentative and full of anger and frustration and hatred and all these kind of things which conflict with these four fundamental virtues or values of being a human being, we have a problem in our faith. Okay? When we turn towards Him seeking these things, we then become properly shielded by those two things. I'll call them rocks. Your courage and your hope. That's how faith supports. That's why we believe in God. Not that people can't be gentle without God. Not that you can't have a nice person, a good person, benevolent person, very charitable person, and a complete atheist. But life's ups and downs and so forth, this is what happens. We are all sharing in this. But we want to grow, not just stay within the protection of the human ones because they fail. We know when courage has failed. I know from my own life experiences many occasions on those occasions when I have been cowardly or ran with the tail between my two legs, as they say. Or hope fails and you become desperate and impatient, and that impatience shows through words that come out or the expression on my face. They fail. I need something which will allow me to carry on being like that. So I want this from Allah if I'm a religious person. That means I in turn have to exhibit these and improve them in how I afford it to the world. That's my sixth point. That means we know God through these qualities being practiced in our own lives. And that is Islam, as simple as that. That is Islam. Yeah? We believe in the one God. We want God to be gentle with us, for Him to be kind to us. We want Him to treat us well and give us out of His generosity. Whatever He provides out of His grace and mercy. We want Him to forbear all our kind of shortcomings and misbehavior, ingratitude. Then we should be prepared to display these qualities towards His creation. The best of creation are? Who are the best of creation? Human beings, yeah. All human beings have what? An abstract quality? Honor or dignity. Yeah. Respect. You don't have to be a Muslim. Okay, all human beings. Why? Why would a human being have dignity unlike a dog has a dignity or has dignity?
Because of our intellect.
Because of our intellect. Jazakallah khair. And that's exactly. And you said that because you knew from Islam or just rational thinking? Rational thinking. And that's exactly what Ibn Abbas said, radiallahu anhu. Yeah. When Allah says in the Quran, we have created, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, we have endowed or gave dignity to children of Adam, human beings. He said we have dignity on account of the intellect. It's a religious answer, but it's a rational answer or an intellectual answer. And that's how Islam is. So if you find things are being artificially imposed and stretched and so forth, nothing should sit unnaturally in the human heart when Islam is being proposed. Okay. So I talked about warmth, the sun providing warmth and the sapling or the shoot rising towards the sun. And I talked about the warmth in terms of qualities are these four things. When we seek God in our lives through these four qualities, it inevitably translates into practicing these four qualities towards His creation, starting with the most important, the human beings. Even with your enemies. Okay? Law has to be followed and justice has to be done and things have to be protected and managed. But wherever possible, we let these four qualities always override. Okay? Even against those who hate us and want to harm us, or actually do harm us. So that's it. So this is the warmth of character. Yeah? An artist draws a portrait or a painting, and he expresses the warmth of his thoughts through the delicacy of his colours, doesn't he? Because you can see a painting and say, oh, my 5-year-old child can do that. But others kind of look at that and they go, ooh and ah, and something they feel, they find the subtleties of the colours and the shades and the tones and so forth. So a true artist actually puts all his feelings, the warmth of his kind of like thinking. He looks at a flower or a rock or a stream or a sunset. The warmth, not the coldness, not the ugliness, the warmth of his feelings, and that's expressed through the colours. Now these are warmth of character. So what are the portraits you think you and I are painting through our character in society, in life? Yeah. We're all artists. We're all have an impact on society around us, people around us, family, neighbours. When you go shopping at Tesco or Sainsbury's, they see us. It's like the other day I went to Macros for shopping and I saw this. And what makes it worse is because it shouldn't be, but that's how it is, and we should adjust and remember the context of the world in which we live, or our society or community in which we live. So there happen to be ethnic people, which kind of made it more cringeable, in such a word, more cringing for me. But they're talking very loud, and we don't talk like that anyway. And then started shouting across the corridor, and then went and whacked that kid. Why are you doing this? First of all, you shouldn't be doing. That's wrong. To shout and humiliate your child in front of people, and to smack, physically punish. And you do it in a shop, and you're wearing ethnic garb as well. You're affirming and confirming. Yet if I asked him about Islam, he will say there is only one God. Prophet Muhammad is the kindest. He was the most benevolent. He was very forbearing. He was gentle. We'll be able to explain and insist that our Prophet was the best of the best. But the picture we are painting of ourselves in Islam, what is that? What is the effect we are creating? So when we don't create the right kind of effect on the hearts of people through our character, behavior, normal behavior, going to a birthday party or sunning at the beach, whatever it may be, we are Muslims. We are seeking a life, not only good on this world, a life in the hereafter. Where God, if He exists, and that's something to be convinced about through opening up the heart a bit and reflecting on creation. That's what we read those verses for. So really my class is always about that, isn't it? Improve the character. You help me, I help you. We remind each other, we pull each other up. Make sure the pictures we present is very beautiful in society. So people are happy. So I've got a quotation here from Sir Francis Bacon. It's a funny name for a Muslim to use, Bacon, but there you go. He was a great guy, actually, a philosopher, a British philosopher, empiricist and so forth. And he wrote he mentioned something. He said, and he was a philosopher, he was quite an accomplished person, and he's actually known to have been in the 17th century, and he was known to have been the one who founded empiricism. Whatever that may be, let's not complicate too much. But he was no ordinary person. Man of substance, of deep thinking, who has had an impact on how the Western world developed and now constitutes such thinking the foundations of our civilization. And many Muslims automatically, by default, subscribe to it without knowing the history of how things developed, when they are shouting, like in the Arab world now, and fighting against a lot of opposition for democracy. Agree or disagree. Okay? Liberal democracy at that as well. He said, a little philosophy inclines man's mind to atheism. A little philosophy inclines a person's mind to atheism. Because we get full of it, don't we? Oh, I can explain how the rain falls. That's not God. It's actually the sun making the water evaporate and the cloud gathers and then condenses and bloody blah. Oh yeah, I know everything. But depth in philosophy brings men's minds about to religion. So the deeper we think, the more we reflect, more we appreciate how little we know. And how there are all these mysteries which we can never fathom out. And no matter how much I become an expert and devote my entire life to studying any particular instance of creation, could be just water, could be the ant, could be the human eye, could be the cell. I don't know everything that is to know about the ant or the eye or I can't, or properties of water. And that's my favorite example, properties of water, because it's stuck in my mind since my college days, Kingston Polytechnic, where I did my first degree before 1980s, 70s. It's the chemical abstracts and the properties of water. It's like, how in God's name, are you ever going to read through all that? But it's like whole stacks and stacks of rows and rows of books just on the property of water. I said, that's just about water. What about everything else in the universe? And even today we are told that men, it's a chauvinistic thing to say, human beings know more about the planets and the stars than they know what's buried at the bottom of the sea or even the depths of the earth. They are still trying to explore what is at the bottom of the Mariana Trench and discovering new species. I'm getting amazed and bamboozled by how can it withstand such pressure and still live and flourish. So, a little philosophy inclines men's mind to atheism, but depth in philosophy brings men's mind to religion. So the point is, we can soar high in knowledge and become very feel like, yeah, I'm it. But sometimes we need to sink to the depths of our thought about how little we know. And the key ingredient to learn, whether it's about I want to know about God and become a believer, to I am a good Muslim and I'm actually better Muslim than many other Muslims. I shouldn't think like that, but if you think like that, I need to learn all the time. If I'm learning chemistry, physics, biology or art and drama from my teacher, what do? What's the quality I show? What's the quality I show to learn from somebody? Huh? Knowledge is what I'm trying to acquire. Say, I'm giving you you want some knowledge from me. So what's the quality you will display towards me? What's the kind of attitude? Huh?
Respect.
Respect.
Yes.
Respect, isn't it? I mean, at least you'll be quiet and say, let me see what he has to say. Then maybe I'll say, that's wrong. I'll think about it. But at least you have respect. You'll be quiet, you'll listen, you'll think. Then you may dismiss and reject. The respect is there. But then, if you think I am the expert, because I've got a head start, 10, 20 years, I've done more research, I've spent more time, that's my field, and you're just a casual kind of person, like I know a little bit about geography, geography is a bad example, a little bit about physics, but I'm not a physicist, I haven't spent time doing physics stuff. So when I got a physics professor, I will have respect, but more often than not, I will defer to him, isn't it? Well, you guide me, you tell me, you teach me how to think and what it should be the answer, so I have humility. The key word I was looking for is humility. Humility. So brothers and sisters, whether we are trying to become stronger in faith or seeking God, have this. Think about it. Do I feel humility in my heart? And only I can tell, nobody can. Because on the outwardly I might be very humble in my appearance and come out of my expressions and body movements, but no. Internally, inside my heart, do I have humility towards that which I know is superior? Do I yield or submit to a source or people or like that? So sometimes we think big of the knowledge we have gained. We soar high, as they say. I know so much, I can think and I have... And sometimes we need to go to the opposite. Sink to the depths of our thought, philosophy or thought of how little we know. When we can balance, the exercise to balance the two. I have knowledge, I have gained, I'm not totally ignorant. I have sufficient knowledge and I'm getting more. That elation, that good feeling, I compensate also with how little I know and so much to learn, and how can I be so assertive? That kind of the arrogance with age will go. That exercise of the mind brings humility. Balancing the two, that brings humility. So the first thing we're going to say about us for Muslims, if you and I want to increase faith, be humble. Even though we have memorized the Quran, I've spent 20 years sitting with the various scholars in various parts of the world, really, how much do I know? I've known a lot. I'm not ignorant. I don't want to put myself down. I should have self-respect and self-esteem. But really, how little I know. And so many scholars have spoken like that, haven't they? You've had examples before. The more I learn, the less I know. Whether it's Mr. Warren Buffett or it's Imam Shafi'i, they all say the same things. Whether it's Constantine, not Emperor Constantine, Saint Augustine, or whether it's Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. They have said the same thing. The more you learn, the less you know. Okay? So we need to have humility. Whether it's about, I want to know if there is God, I want to be a Muslim or not, or whether it's about, I'm a Muslim, I want to be, and we lack that, then we become arrogant. And those 4 qualities disappear: gentleness, kindness, benevolence. What was the 4th one? Huh? Forbearance, tolerance, forbearance. They begin to disappear. So we become more intolerant, more assertive, more judgmental, more labeling, condemning, less punish, and then we use religion for our own ends. Okay. So this was some other author. He's a French author, American dramatist and author, novelist, and he said this: the greatest explorer on this earth never takes voyages as long, or as long in time, as those of the man who descends to the depths of the heart. Look inside, feel inside. Every human being has the potential to be the best of the best in terms of character, charity, benevolence, gentleness, kindness. You can never be too kind. You can never be too gentle or too forbearing. Yeah? Because none of us can match, rather, as a Muslim I say, on the strength of conviction, none of us can match those qualities in terms of how it reflects in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It can't be too much, never. Okay. So the greatest explorer on the earth never takes voyages as long as those of the man who descends to the depth of his heart. And he's not a Muslim, Julian Green. But it's something to think about, and that's how we should be. We can think, we have the power of intellect, he said, makes us dignified creatures. Have dignity, think, and feel in the heart, whether it's about God or becoming a better Muslim. And let me now finish, inshallah, the 2 minutes left. So being religious, having said all that, I hope you will agree with me, being religious is not about subscribing to or accepting false notions. Being religious, any religion, whether it's Christianity or Buddhism, who don't believe in God at all, they will never say we believe in false notions. They will say this is the sure path to happiness and so forth. The Buddhists, for example, and Christians, so will Jews, Hindus. But it's about the truth in the sense of God that we are interested in, because either the whole of creation, given what we heard and said, came about by itself, or there is God of some type with certain characteristics. We'll come to that in the next part of the class. But it's not about Islam abhors, hates superstitions. Islam abhors. And it asks us, the Quran asks us time and time again, over and over again, to explore, to investigate, to consider creation. Us, our languages, colors, animals, camels, stars, earth, wind, rain, ships sailing on the sea. So what we mean is that in the end we conclude that really the creation displays in front of us the awesome knowledge contained within it in such a way that even our minds cannot conceive or dream about, no matter how intelligent and learned we become. So we should be humble and know that if all this came about on account of a supreme deity or force, call him God for the sake of convenience, or any other name that fits that in any language, that God is either real or products of the mind. People need something that doesn't wear out. Love wears out, patience wears out. We need something permanent and strong. So we cannot create gods out of these abstract qualities and call that is my deity. Or we can say, no, there is a living being called Allah, or God, who has those qualities which never wear out. Permanent, absolute, supreme. Yeah? So we have to start with God. And let's take a tea break now, inshallah. Come back to this. Right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed your tea. I enjoyed the biscuit more than the tea, but there you go. And a little bit of sugar, otherwise I'd break out in sweat and roll around on the floor. It's a quivering jelly. But alhamdulillah, we said a few things this morning, alhamdulillah. It's always light-hearted but yet serious. It's always educational but somewhere where I would like more participation, but I end up talking more. But do interrupt, stop me in my tracks, as they say. If you feel I've said something not right or can be spiced up or you could add value or enrich, please don't feel inhibited. If you don't talk, rather than sit and look at each other and be silent, I just carry on talking. And that can be counterproductive, because then you have to interrupt. You feel, oh no, how do I, it's rude. But don't, you just stick your hand up and that's it, inshallah. But I think this morning what we have done, we looked at 2 verses from the Noble Quran, Alhamdulillah, and those 2 verses specifically talked about certain phenomena of nature. And we sort of said, what did you feel when you heard that? What do you think? And we picked up on one word, purpose, because Brother Hirsch most kindly made that observation from his powers of reasoning and thinking. So I kind of a little bit gave him a hard time, saying, well, you've jumped. It's a bit like how we used to do in olden days, like comics. You say, some very complicated expressions there, then a black box, and there you go, the product appears. And this black box is never explained. So that black box are all these phenomena of nature, which helps us to conclude, but through observation, perception, reasoning, thinking, that there is a purpose, there is an intelligence behind, and so forth. So I said as a Muslim that there is God behind all this. Then we talked about how human beings, well, Islam is about being a human being in the fullest sense, in the most complete sense, in the most virtuous, noble, beautiful sense. For that we had 4 qualities, and I mentioned, I can't remember myself anymore. I mentioned, what did I mention? There was a forbearance at the end, there was benevolence, there was kindness and gentleness. Anyway, KGB, no, whatever. Yeah. But some of those things, yeah? And I said any human being which have those things will be admirable, likable, more acceptable, make the whole life better for everyone else. Then I said something about courage and hope and 2 kind of rocks, triangular rocks, and I gave the example of a plant. The plants and vegetable kingdom, they kind of like grow towards the sun. Sun provides warmth. These 2 things are exhaustible, do not last, and not like as if they are never going to change. Sometimes they disappear. So they are support, they are protection, but we need something else. They protect maybe the young sapling from growing and falling over and so forth, from being spoiled. Human beings are also able to grow upwards and become more noble and elevated in rank, prestige, esteem, honor. And that happens because Allah draws us towards Him by putting us something in our heart called a natural ability to recognize and yearn for and connect with God. But we have to see God in a certain way. And that's all about these 4 qualities. That's the controversial, original stuff we might find in today's class. There's not just a haphazard, random, I accept God, I follow God's law, and it's all become very kind of rule book based kind of thing. It's about the human heart. The human heart must yearn and connect with God on this basis of strength of certain qualities. What do you want from God, Allah? I want Him to be kind. Well, why aren't you kind towards people then? God is forbearing. I take advantage of that. I place my hope and I have courage because I know it's not all lost. God forgives and He puts up with a lot of my misbehavior, and yet He feeds me, and yet there's so many things like that. Then how come I'm so intolerant about other people? God gives me time to develop. He didn't send the whole Quran down at one go. It was piecemeal, through incidents, and developed the hearts of the companions, the disciples. How come I don't allow people to develop and become so like short-tempered or ill-mannered or impatient? I want to make everything happen at one go. But even then, moving on from that, I know that I'm not unlearned. I have knowledge. We all have knowledge, expertise, skill, and we are learning. But then we want to temper that, counterbalance that with also thinking about how little we know. The more I study history, the more I think I'll never get to the bottom of this. Actually, recently I've been reading a book on the 30 Years' War of the European history, and it's about 900 pages long. When I finished that, I thought, I'm going to finish it one day, inshallah. Very ambitious of me, because I'm a very slow reader. So I started reading that, about 300 pages through. Still about 600 pages to go. But I already bought 2 other volumes on the 30 Years' War. It's so interesting. And that's just not even the tip of the iceberg, and the amount of literature that's been produced on just the 30 Years' War, the 100 Years' War, and all these kind of things that happened in our history. That's nothing. How much do I know about humanity? Because I don't even know enough about properties of water, as I mentioned. So, we need to sometimes think deep about how little we know, and in exercising the mind with the heart about how I have known, I am aware, with I don't know very much really, brings about that quality which is essential to learning anything, including discovering and believing in God. Humility. That's all I said. Okay. And then we said the artist, something of an artist analogy I gave. And so what kind of pictures are we painting when people observe us in through our character? Because the character should reflect those 4 virtues. And that's the warmth of our character. That is more important. Sometimes the heart is better disposed and more inclined towards truth and virtue than just conforming because of pressure and artificiality to laws and regulations. And God values that more. The natural, spontaneous heart. Every heart is created to be virtuous and to be reliable enough to be counted upon in times of making a decision. Is this morally upright? Is it ethically correct or not? That's why, as we have said many times before, one of the first prophecies ever given by the prophets to their people was consult your heart. Is it right? Is it wrong? Can I continue doing this or is it bad? Every human being has this. Believers in God or not, it's something endowed in our nature. And I talked to Francis Bacon and talked about Julian Green's thing about the longest journey is when you think in the heart. Talk about superstition. Don't be superstitious. In the end, though, it is about using the faculty of reasoning and thinking and the heart in submission to God. Because just like I give up and say, I can't possibly know everything there is to know about astronomy, I can't possibly know everything there is to know about anything. So I submit. I submit to a superior, higher source. God behind everything. I take the revelation. And I use revelation with the power of my intellect and the feelings of my heart to interpret according to what supports these qualities. And it's more than that. There is justice, there is mercy, there is generosity, there is charity. All the good things you can mention, they all come under the Islamic behavior as goals. I have these goals. So Islam is not asking me to become artificial, kind of insensate, kind of like harsh and brutal, judgmental, nothing of that sort. It is asking me to be a human being, fully use my faculties of reasoning and heart and everything. But remember, you don't know, God knows. And He's given revelation, and we interpret. Okay? The faculty of reason and use of reasoning is never lost. Reason well. And so, that's why you found verses like that. Allow me to read a few more. Do you not see that God has subjected to your use all things in the heavens and on earth, and has made His bounties flow to you in exceeding measure, both seen and unseen? Now people like us can now stop and we think, what are these bounties? Chocolate bars with coconut, sweet filling. No. What are these bounties? It could be in terms of the air that we breathe, or my good health, or it could be other things. It could be just lifestyle, or the house they live in, and so on and so forth. Yet there are amongst people those who dispute about Allah, about God, without knowledge, without guidance, and without a book to enlighten them. So we are asked to reason, to think, use our intellectual capacity. Don't you see that God makes the clouds move gently, then joins them together, then makes them into a heap? Then you will see rain issue forth from their midst, and He sends down from the sky mountain masses of clouds, wherein is hail. He strikes therewith whom He pleases, and He turns it away from whom He pleases. The vivid flash of lightning almost snatches away the sight. Again, we are pondering, we're reflecting, we're thinking about the phenomenon of creation. Don't you see, every time He's asking, don't you see that God merges night into day? Which we read before, I won't read it again. And then He says again, He who created the 7 heavens, one above the other. No want of proportion will you see in the creation of Allah. الذي خلق السبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت. Do you see any defect in the creation of most gracious? So turn your vision again. Do you see any defect, flaw? Again turn your vision for a second time, karratain. Your vision will come back to you dull and discomfited, worn out. So really this act of submission, saying to I don't know, God knows, is not a request to us, let alone an order to give up our faculties and say, okay, just become like a dumb creature, accept whatever it says. That obedience is important. Obedience is there. But obedience becomes easy when it springs from within, because nothing in the religion is given against human interest. And the true jurisprudence and scholars, when they actually interpret the religion for us in terms of principles and goals, they always take into account human interest. And human interest can never be accommodated without knowing the people amongst whom we live, whom the religion is meant to serve. It's meant to serve the people in order to enhance them in those qualities I mentioned and more, like charity and generosity and so forth, which is different from place to place, time to time, and people to people. Generosity can take a different form in subtle ways in a village in Bangladesh than perhaps a rural in Framlingham in Suffolk. Generosity, because the type of people, living standards, cultural considerations, people's habits, norms, customs, all of that should be taken into account. So yes, certainly, yesterday, on Thursday, we had a session, as I was saying to Brother Fan, at the town hall, and then I asked the question about, can you be a Muslim and be fully British and subscribe to English culture and so forth? And one brother, alhamdulillah, he said no, and just as well as that he did, and we could clarify on this basis. Because we do have a lot of misperception that being a Muslim means to become alien in our own country almost, or to look and feel and behave differently from how local indigenous people have always behaved the last 1,000 years perhaps. And so there is certain things we are prohibited from doing, or obligations we have to do, but they are not imposed on us perhaps, or like we are not allowed to drink alcohol, for example. If you choose to and so on, it is your choice in the end. Because nobody's going to be 100% compliant with everything that is stated. It's how the heart feels. People need time to grow. You know, once the man came along, alayhi salatu wasalam, to the Prophet, peace be on him, and said to him, I would like to become a Muslim, but you have to allow me to drink alcohol. These things, there are certain prohibitions. The country and the law does not impose drinking alcohol for us. Okay? But on the other hand, it allows you to, it's a choice. Islam prohibits it, or God doesn't want it to happen. That should not stop a person, because the perfection is not needed. Many Muslims drink, many others perhaps drink and want to become Muslims. So this man came along, and it's a real case, to the Prophet, peace be on him, and said, I want to continue drinking, but I do believe in God. I want to be a Muslim. The Prophet can't legalize what God has forbidden, so he said, be a Muslim, because that's more important. Accept the God with whom you have believed or recognized. Don't deny that truth. And then God is merciful, and He knows the heart, He is the judge. So be a Muslim and be truthful. That was the only condition, be truthful. Don't speak lies, don't tell lies. So he became a Muslim. It's almost like he was allowed to become a Muslim on the condition that he continues to drink, or the Prophet did not say, okay, for you it's okay, you can carry on drinking. So he became a Muslim, having come explicitly for the permission to continue drinking. Prophet didn't say, no, you can't and you mustn't. Be a Muslim. But be truthful. The truthfulness is what's required. So the next few days later, or the next day, when the Prophet met that man again, peace be on him, asked him, did you drink? And he said, truthfully, yes. He's keeping his end of the bargain to be truthful. And it happened several times like that. Eventually the man felt that he should give up, because he can't carry on. There's a conflict of emotions or whatever. But the point is, the Prophet, peace be on him, left it up to the person to develop in his or her own time and space. Having made the legal requirements clear, there's no telling off and so forth. And people did all sorts of things, being gentle. How does gentleness operate? How does accommodating operate? How does it operate? Because how can it be possible that a man comes along and says to the Prophet, oh, punish me? Because he's thinking more in terms of punishment and law, and the Prophet didn't say a word. And he knew perhaps Allah inspired him. And you know this story, of course. I hope you do. And said, no, punish me. Didn't say anything. The prayer time came, they prayed together. And when the prayer finished, the man came up to him and said, you haven't punished me yet. Because he's feeling remorse. He's feeling guilt. He's feeling that he needs to be cleansed of his sin through some physical penance or something, like bread and water or self-laceration or something. Punish me. How can I wash this off, kind of thing? Because he feels guilty. And that is sufficient. And that he wants to reform or not do the bad thing again. Actually, he had a relationship with a woman before coming, unmarried. They were not married together. But the man felt confident enough to approach the Prophet. Prophet didn't say, I know what you've been up to. How dare you come, you dirty man or filthy man, or anything like that. Join the prayer. Standing toe to toe, shoulder to shoulder with other noble, high or low Muslims. And the Prophet said, did you not just pray with us? He said, yes. Well, in that case, your sin has been washed off. And that's how it should be. Even there is hadith which teaches about how man came and said, I want to pray only 3 times a day, not 5. 3 times a day. I think 5 is too much. Be a Muslim. You know, that's how we are supposed to be. We are Muslims, or if you're a Muslim, don't pick on our bad habits and the problems and the sins that we have. Because we are supposed to be gentle, we are supposed to be forbearing, we are supposed to be kind, we are supposed to be all of these things, not to legalize, not to say what is wrong to be right, what is forbidden to be allowable, but it's a way of practicing and harboring so the warmth of character shows through and people can know that God is merciful, God is forbearing, and we are the ones who apply rigor in the way to protect, but it can sometimes backfire, can be unjust. So the example I was giving, like it happened in Ipswich the other day when this man was walking on the street, and I went to do this. I might have mentioned to you before, to do a lecture at the St. Clement's, the hospital wing, for the members of staff, and they just wanted to know more about Islam and Muslims and stuff like that. And in the course of conversation, one lady who was a member of staff said to me, well, can you explain to me why, as I was walking down the street, I was just dressed like an ordinary, normal woman, not very provocative or anything like that, wearing a short skirt or giving the come on kind of thing, just normal, whatever. And this Muslim chappie was walking behind me and said, look at her dressed like a slut. How in God's name could you say that? Even if, just mind boggles. But the point is this, that man is responsible before Allah on the Day of Judgment for the effect that he has produced or could have caused to that woman and others. If that woman never verified, cross-checked, and that was perhaps one of the greatest factors or the factor to keep her away from knowing something a bit more about God or Islam and so forth. And we don't think, sometimes in the blind zeal on ignorance, passionlessness, let us get carried away, we behave like this. That is wrong. Okay? So the act of submission is not without the faculty of reason. Reason it. It's in the human interest. Even if I am put off by something and somebody, if I say it, will it support the faith? Will it bring the truth? Will it make the person happy or sad? Or will it be insulting or not? Islam has never taught us to go around insulting people. We do, because we think we are standing up for God. But it's not. Does God like that? Insulting people? When has He taught that? When the Prophet Muhammad said, peace be on him, the hadith is authentic, and which I often quote, which is An-nas ayadullah, the children, people are the children of God. Dependents. We are dependents. Every one of us depend on Allah for sustenance, for mercy, for provisions, everything. So An-nas ayadullah hibbahu min Allah arhamahum li'ayalihi. The most beloved to Allah of such children, those people are those who are kindness or more loving, most loving towards his dependents, his children. Not just Muslims. Who is a Muslim? He from whose hand and tongue other Muslims are safe. So who is a believer?
Where people are safe. All of humanity.
Yeah. He from whose hands and tongue, even tongue. You want to say?
Sorry, I'll let you finish first.
Everyone is safe. Yeah. Okay, well, I finished.
Sorry. That's on that same note, because you love your people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like there's a harm, and a Muslim may want to bring about a good by removing this harm, and it's not always necessarily about not saying anything and not doing anything, because everyone is going to be left to Allah. Sometimes you want to help remove this harm, but maybe it's about who you are and how you want to
Precisely.
remove this harm.
And we must remove harm. That's one of the most urgent and important practices of Islam, to be a Muslim society. We must remove harm and must never, when we are choosing, never allow harm to take over. So the principles of correcting and advice and reformation and so forth is that harm must be removed. But what is harm is debatable, because you have the situation where we had Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah saying that let these people who have become Muslims actually continue being drunk, because when they're drunk, they're not oppressing the people. So drinking is prohibited. These are new Muslims, and they're actually tormenting the other Muslims whom they've occupied in Iraq at that time. So said it's better that they continue drinking, because when they're sane, they deliberately seek out the local Muslims and kill them. So save lives is more important. So removing harm here was lesser of two harms. What is at stake is, what is at issue is exercise of judgment, intelligence, reasoning. Reason it out. If, for example, there's a recent thing on Facebook, it was yesterday, they're saying that one of the universities in Birmingham, I think, they're trying to prohibit alcohol in the campus, in the college. And they're doing it as a kind of money-saving device kind of thing, because the university have cut down on costs kind of thing. And the Muslim, protesting, said, please don't ban alcohol, we will get the blame. Because of Muslims you have. And some people are saying, oh no, what liberal thing, what sort of liberal thinking is that, ban alcohol. So no, that's such a subtle, that is to me how thinking should be. It's more harmful. Everybody knows Muslims don't drink or not supposed to drink. But we shouldn't bring on more harm and hatred or prejudice against us on account of being seen or stereotyped, to be restricting further and further, or this so-called creeping Sharia, isn't it, a joke of the Twitter now. We shouldn't be seen like that. So that man, I thought, was gifted. And the only person to make the observation was Sheikh Mikhail Mumisa. Then he wrote back and said, I see that this gentleman is thinking in terms of Shaykh al-Islam, perhaps read his book or something. So it needs sometimes scholars to see how the depth of reasoning has occurred, but reasoning must be done, and you're perfectly right. Must be intelligent about it. It's not a brutal, shoehorning imposition. Culture, custom, everything is taken into account. So the act of submission without losing the faculty of reason and so forth is to something, isn't it? We see in creation power, we see authority. What else do we see? We see wisdom, don't we? And we see creativity. Creativity. Okay, very bad handwriting, please. There's no young people here, so Yusuf is here. I don't write very nicely, okay? Don't copy this style. Power, authority, wisdom, creativity. So we yield to in nature and creation. And we can then say something on the basis of that, but these are all abstract, aren't they? These are all just qualities, These are not real living things, yeah? So these things, show that there is something in creation which is beyond our grasp, our imagination, our mastery. So we submit to Allah. So power, authority, wisdom, creativity, non-tangible, abstract things. There's nothing solid and material about that. We can yield to these abstract things in terms of making gods out of them. Figments of imagination. It sounds cogent, sounds solid, God. But if that God is not the true God, it's just a chimera, they're like fantasy. We cook up. So what we do is we say all of these things belong to a living God, Al-Hayyu, all subsisting, Al-Qayyum, Al-Hakim, Al-Khaliq, Al-Bari, and so forth, Al-Malik, Al-Qadir, all these names, but they belong to Allah, they are attributes of God, or names of God. So instead of worshipping gods, because we think nature shows that there are these things at play, and then creating gods with these kind of qualities in absolute terms, we put all of them in our understanding of Allah through natural reasoning. And this will get complicated, I'm not going to go into this, but that's where natural law and religious law come in, and how the two marry together. So power, authority, wisdom, and creativity. Okay? Can I move on? Anything more to say? 10 minutes left. Move on? Is that okay? So what I'm saying is don't go for things that are made up by our minds. Go for something real. And then know that Allah has names and attributes. And the most overriding thing is we know Allah is merciful. And His mercy overrides His anger. And He's reserved the major part of His mercy to deal with His servants. And out of His mercy He sent prophets, and the sun shines upon all, and the river flows, and the rain falls, and the flower blooms, and everything. It's out of His mercy. Allah has done that. And for us to then connect with nature and appreciate God and admire Him and be thankful, He sent the most merciful person that can ever be, Muhammad, peace be on him, as a mercy to the worlds. So when you and I take isolated examples in kind of like excerpts and reinterpret and cast into the mold of our own whims, desires of revenge seeking or what we would establish, we are doing a great disservice. We are using religion or Islam for our own worldly purposes. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. So all of us human beings have character. We say human character. Okay? All of us do. And we have to say, for the human character to have ethical root or basis or morality, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, alhamdulillah, it has to be established on something. What is the foundation? That's the question I'm asking you. We are human beings with a character. We behave, we feel, we have opinions, we have attitudes. We have ethics or morality. Ethics this is loaded with religion. That's just a plain academic almost, ethical. Right, wrong, is it good or bad? It should be established, founded on something. What do you think human ethics or religious morals are established on? What's the foundation?
Morality is based on revelation, but ethics is based on a sense of justice, or what's right and what's wrong, fairness.
Why would you want to be fair? Why be just?
That's the right thing to do.
Why is it the right thing to do?
I think humans got this, like, it's just natural inside of us.
It's not, yeah, but in the end it's driven by what quality? It's driven by some quality, isn't it? Something in us. It's natural. Something about it binds us together, makes us feel bad when you hurt somebody or somebody's being unpleasant to someone out of hand. There's a bit of injustice and you say, oh, doesn't matter, you walk away callously. You feel because of empathy, compassion, mercy, love. Will you say love?
Alright, love.
Okay, then thank you. Love is too intense. If it's too intense, too focused, too strong, too sentimental, compassion is far more general. Less intense, compassion. All of the Sharia, all of what Allah has done is out of His love for His creation. And His love precedes, His mercy precedes. His mercy preceded even before, His love for us preceded even before He created us, obviously. Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Yeah? So compassion is the basis of, mercy is the basis of. Yeah? So one's ethics or morality should be rooted in compassion. Love is maybe too strong, compassion. You and I fail to show this and develop or nurture or cultivate this in the society in which we live, amongst the people whom we do, then you and I have failed to properly recognize God. We have used God to make something out of ourselves. So we can say love again can grow thin, it can wear out, I can be frustrated in loving somebody, it may not be unconditional, and sometimes it's not right to be unconditional as well, and so on and so forth. But God's love, so for us, our love exhausts itself. Allah's love never exhausts, it's eternal. Allah loves Al-Wadud. Just like Allah is like Al-Qadir, or the Al-Quwwat Al-Mateen, He is endowed with strength and power, and never wears out. His wisdom never wears out. His love never wears out. Okay? So we need not a figment. We don't make up one and say, God is love, or I'll worship love. That's Hare Rama, Hare Krishna type of people, or somewhere in Oregon we establish a commune or something. It's not like that. We say Allah is true. Those abstract qualities are not gods. We don't make gods from our minds. We believe in Allah. Allah loves. We should love. Allah, to His love, has given us Islam and the Prophet and the law. And the law never goes against our human interest. So even if you see something prohibited, and that goes against human interest, especially common human interest, the scholars have always mentioned that you are allowed to do something of prohibited, small, to avoid a greater harm. Even do something haram, to avoid a greater haram. So Allah, the ever-living, loves, and His love and mercy encompasses everything. Everything, okay? And if it were not for His love, nothing would exist, if you think about it. It's in the Quran, and it's through philosophical or intellectual thought as well. Nothing would exist unless God loved creation and us, or people. So it has to, for ethics or morality, whether we are religious or non-religious, ethics and morality to be properly just, we want to be just, isn't it? It has to encompass not just human beings, animals and all of creation. God is the creator. We learn to love His creation through revelation, using the intelligence God has given us with the powers of reasoning. So I should know that if I behave in this way, that creates disasters in the environment, or harms these rabbits in the field. I mean, think in any way you like. If I do this, it causes pollution to the atmosphere. Oh no, it actually harms those birds in my garden. You have to think like that. Because ethics is not right or complete, neither is morality, only for human beings. And human beings, if they think like that, Hamakallah, if they think like that, it's still wrong, because we need everything else around us. So therefore, knowledge of God comes first. Okay, see how we're concluding? Do you see how we're concluding step by step? It's a bit heavy, I know, but do you see? My mind is still functioning. So we don't create false gods. We believe in a real God who has these attributes, compassion, love, and so forth. And then now it shows that for us to be properly anchored to the truth, without dispensing with our rational faculties, we need to understand or know God first. We have to know God. And so go back all full circle. We cannot know God unless you are humble and you say, I need to know. And we're able to. Every human being is able to accept God. If you recognize God, I'm saying to Muslims, if we have, be comfortable, strengthen it through good behavior. The sins in our lives, God forgives over and over again, the heart. I mean, you might remember the hadith about this man sinned, and so, oh God, forgive me. And the Prophet said, peace be on him. Well, he knows he has a Lord who punishes and rewards. So he said, forgive me. So God has forgiven him. Then he does the sin again, the same thing, same offense. Then again he said, oh God, forgive me. And Allah says, He knows that he has a Lord who rewards and punishes. I have forgiven you. He does it again. Again, oh Allah, forgive me. Because after doing the bad thing, he's succumbing every time, and every time after that he's feeling regret. And he said, I won't do it again. I'm sorry, that's bad and wrong of me. But he can't help it. He continues to do the same thing. Again, God says, forgiveness. Does it a fourth time. And then God says, do whatever you please, I've forgiven you. That's generosity. Come on, think about it. It's so stupendous, the mind, it's hard to conceive. God Almighty, who should be rendered all worship, is saying, do whatever you please. Only because the heart is continually coming back. Never saying, oh, you haven't stopped, how could you carry on doing this? So whatever it is, a human defect I have or you have, a sin that you can't give up, it's important to keep that. I know it's wrong, but who can be perfect? I'm not making that a license for myself. So if I'm like that, I'm relying on God's generosity, why do I want Him to be perfect? And see something wrong and then become like I am the one. It shouldn't be like this. We should accommodate, inshallah. So know Allah first. فَعَلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. Know, therefore, that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. Then seek forgiveness for your sins and then for the Muslim men and the Muslim women. How can I seek forgiveness of myself and the others if I don't feel at one with compassion and love for one another? I want God to love me, I should love His creation. Human beings are the best. And know that Allah knows how you move about and how you dwell in your homes. So nearly finished. So the moment, as one person says, the moment we have in our heart this feeling of love, which is like the elation of it, the ecstasy of it, or the taste of it, I don't know how to put it, you actually begin to think of the whole world in a different way. The whole perception gets transformed. It is different. It's no longer revenge-driven, vengeful, not about power, I want authority, I want my name. It's never like that. You're just happy to be guided, and you're happy that others are closer and closer to the truth. But minimum is accept God in your life. That's it. And I'm going to finish our last 2 minutes. We'll just give you a list of, without reading through it, some of the qualities that God loves. Okay? And look at these qualities. They are not defined usually. They're left to the human agency to understand for yourselves. Among the qualities Allah loves, and each and every one of them has verses in the Quran. Among the qualities Allah loves are those who do good deeds. You decide what's a good deed. Charity, of course. Any human being will say charity is a good deed. Who are humble and kind with kind manners. Those who ask Him for forgiveness. Those who purify themselves. Those who are trustworthy. Those who are grateful. You can't be grateful to God without being grateful to people. Those who act justly. How do you act justly? It depends on what you're judging. It's human intellect, now powers of reasoning. Those who strive, like Inna Allah yuhibbul muqsiteen. How to be a muqsit person. Wallahu yuhibbul mutatahhirin. To be tahir, clean. Okay? Or it says, Wallahu yuhibbul sabirin. To be patient. How does patience come about in various circumstances? So all the qualities, you'll find lists and lists of them are about such things, which is admirable. To finish off lastly, note this point, this you probably won't find mentioned in many places. When you look at the Quran at what God does not like, you'll see He does not mention hate. Allah does not mention hate. It is noteworthy that in the Quran, in many cases when Allah's displeasure is talked about, it's never in terms of hate. Rather, Wallahu la yuhibbu kullu kaffarin athim. Allah does not love those who are ungrateful, continuous sinners. Or la yuhibbu dhalimin. Allah does not love. It's a love is used all the time. Allah loves this, Allah does not love that. Does not love the unjust oppressors. Oppression. Yeah? Allah does not, Inna Allah la yuhibbu man kana mukhtalan fakhura. Does not love those who are proud and boastful. Pride and arrogance. He does not love. Doesn't say He hates. He never says I hate. Okay? Inna Allah la yuhibbu man kana khawanan athima. Khawanan breaks trust. Khiyana. Allah does not love those who are treacherous. What is treachery? There is a treachery to the country, to the system, to the contract, in a marital situation, to everything. Breaking of trust. So I finish, inshallah, time has gone up. I finish by quoting a Christian, actually. A Christian, great person, Albert Camus. He said, in the depth of winter, I finally learned that there was in me an invincible summer. This is the human heart. When times are bad, things look a bit bleak and we feel a little bit hopeless and so forth. We find the strength of God. And we understand. In the depth of winter, when things are like barren and cold and frigid and all that, I finally learned there was in me an invincible summer. We fully comply with it. That's a Christian statement, but it's fully Islamic. Logic says so, mind says so, heart says. I leave you with that thought, inshallah ta'ala. We have strength. Thank you for coming. We have strength. We have, inshallah, a lot of virtues. We have a lot of ability as well. If we could only believe in God and be relaxed a bit about how we treat each other, be non-judgmental, not try to label people and not behave as if we are the policemen in society. We're not policemen or anything. We just want to get on and find forgiveness. And it is we're not as if assured of a place in paradise like that, because we don't know how sincere we are, how, I don't know, hypocritical we are. So we should go easy and the qualities we depend upon Allah for are the very qualities that we should afford to other people, as I started by saying. May Allah guide me and guide you. May Allah unite us upon the truth. May Allah forgive all people and guide us all and make us Muslims who are, those who are able to do what He loves. And may He unite us all in the best of paradise. Jannatul Firdaus. Amin. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka.